Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another spectacular episode of Soul Focus Radio. Once again, this is your host, Martin Friedman, and once again, I'm joined by Ragivah Mahdi. Hey, Ragivah Mahdi.
Hey, what's happening, Martin? How you doing, man? And hello to everybody out there listening to the podcast and joining on. Thank you so much for supporting this. And, what we do is for you.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and I'm jazzed, man. I'm excited because we're continuing a conversation we had on our last podcast, and I'm really energized from that conversation. It was powerful and it really got me going. And one of the things I wanted to say to you, you and I have known each other a really long time, and I think one of the things that happened to me on that last podcast, Mahdi, is that I realized that you and I are really similar in a lot of ways. Just like talking about the depression and also like the dramaticness, the need to be dramatic. I think sometimes I forget that about you because I have a feeling this is something that happens to you a lot, but because you impart so much wisdom, people project a lot onto you. And I think I've been projecting that you and I are pretty different people some of the time. And, we were friends and colleagues with the People's Institute before we ever entered into a coaching relationship where you were my coach. And that last conversation really also made me realize, just how similar in many ways you and I are, especially in our life experiences, even if the way we've gone with our life experiences maybe has been different. But, here we are, joining forces on this incredible journey. And I think I just forget sometimes about that. So that really stuck with me in our last conversation.
Yeah, being a spiritual guide or coach to other people only means that you've walked up ahead on the path and have made decisions quicker than some other people have made decisions. That's basically what it means. And then, because once your decision is made, you align your practice with it, your choices align with it, and then it looks as if you have been on the path a whole lot longer. But it really just a matter of you've made decisions, and you get to a point to where you start making decisions faster and faster and faster and faster. The faster you make your decisions, the faster your life moves. And what I mean by faster, I'm not talking about in terms of your life zooms by you. What I'm saying is the things that you want to have happen start happening for you faster, 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 because there were a whole host of decisions that were connected to the initial decision to come into this world. You made the decision to live. Nobody made the decision for you. Nobody forced you to come into this world. So you decided to come to life.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of other decisions already made. So what you're doing is just simply by consciously making a decision, what you're doing is aligning with your life. Right. So imagine, a person saying, I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's bullshit. It's bullshit that they are speaking to someone that they think cannot see them. But the people that can begin to see you because they have made decisions, you begin to stick out like a sore thumb that you are just not making the decision, and you have become, sort of you've developed a relationship with these pathetic secondary benefits.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think, I think it's important, and you always do this. I think it's important for you to share, your journey and your doubts, because like I said, that projection is real. And, even with people that you have relationship with, that call you friend, that you talk to a lot, I still think that projection can happen. So one of the things I really appreciated about that last episode that we just recorded was, your vulnerability in your own journey. And even just saying that you've needed dramatic things, that was, I think, the point I connected with you most, because I don't think of you like that. I don't think of you as needing dramatic things in your life or being a dramatic person. I'm very dramatic. I believe I have an addiction to drama with my, just in my collection,
Right.
my giant collection of addictions. I think addiction to drama is one of those things. So even just, I don't think I've ever heard you say that before. That was a powerful moment.
When I say dramatic, what I mean is that, it's like having like this setup of this grand happenings that take place collectively, like the trip I made to St. Thomas, where the lesson in that trip was simply for me to realize that, fighting to be right all the time will send me down a road where I would never be happy.
Right.
And went through this whole dramatic thing of, going to all these spiritual ceremonies, having to wear white every day, and having had been told to wear white by my spirit on a regular basis. So I followed when I finally decided to go to St. Thomas. So I brought all white outfits, even white hat, white tennis shoes, because that's what my intuition told me to do. I get out there, and the minute I'm there, every night I'm going to a different spiritual ceremony that required me to wear all white. So it wasn't a vacation. I was working every day. And so on one particular instance, invited to this estate at the top of this large hill or mountain in St. Thomas. And, we weren't invited, but we sort of invited ourselves and went there with one of the council persons. She had invited me there. I'd never met her before. She said she'd been waiting for me to come all my life, not romantically, but spiritually, as someone to come bring something to them that they were waiting for. So I go to this spiritual ceremony, and this Indian guru makes the statement. He says, throughout the annals of history, man has been willing to give up everything for one thing. Can you guess what that one thing is? And, everybody started guessing as we were sitting around in lotus position next to the pool, in a meditative stance. And people would start saying power, money, love, sex, etc., etc. And he kept saying, no, no, no. Then he says, would you like me to take you out of your misery? And everybody said, yeah. He says, throughout the annals of history, man has been willing to give up everything to be right. And I was like, fuck, I came all the way to St. Thomas to hear that message. Because that was my life.
Right.
My life was proving to people that I was right and they were wrong at any cost. And I was burning relationships up like paper, and that was a dramatic lesson. When I say dramatic, all of those things had to happen to really get my attention, to create like a tunnel of focus around the subject of, letting go of wanting to be right all the time, and really just letting it go, period. Not all the time, just period. Making a decision to let go of wanting to be right, because it was bullshit.
Yeah.
It was a secondary, pathetic ass benefit, because I would walk away thinking I was right, but I had lost what I wanted, or hadn't even come close to what I wanted, but I was right. That's a pathetic secondary benefit. Pathetic.
Right. So not, and I think this is really good, because not everybody's going to have that dramatic moment, right? Like
We
I
all
said,
do. No. We all do. But just that
go ahead. Yeah.
we all do. It's just that it's not the same. That's why it's so dangerous to compare lives. Because we none of it, we all have dramatic moments. We having dramatic moments all the time.
Right.
But if you are not paying attention to your life, then you miss your dramatic moments. That wasn't the first dramatic moment of my life. I had many dramatic moments. And I started becoming more and more aware of them because I started paying attention to me. I went from, feeling like I was born to teach everybody. And I always felt that way. That I was born to teach and remind people of their greatest self.
Right.
But at the same time, I realized that I was on a journey too. And my journey was not to depart knowledge with other people. My journey was to really learn how to enjoy me. I still had the same, the same responsibility of life, which is to live it. We all have the same responsibility to our life, and that's to live it.
Right.
So even though I thought of myself and know that I was born and gifted with the ability to be able to help people understand things about themselves, it's still the mandate on my life is still for me to enjoy it, to live it.
So I hear you. And then what I'm wondering is, so yeah, we have a lot of dramatic moments, right? But most of our dramatic moments don't lead to that decision that you're talking about.
Well, it's only because you just don't make it. It can very well lead to that. It depends on your relationship with yourself.
It could very well lead to it, but for most of us, it hasn't. And that's my point. My point is, like, think that, there's a lot of waiting. A lot of us are waiting. We're
Mhm.
waiting for something, right?
Yes, yes.
There was a really famous play. I'm trying to remember if you and I ever talked about this or not. There's a really famous play called Waiting for Godot. And, the entire play is about these two people that are waiting for essentially that dramatic moment to arrive.
Right.
And what they realize, and it's been a long time, so I'm sure there's some like theater major out there that's going to correct me, but they wrote some thesis on this because a lot of people wrote their theses on Waiting for Godot. But, in the end, basically, Godot is not real. And really what they're waiting for is themselves. And they're waiting for themselves to make their decisions. And as I remember the play, not having read it in probably 30 years, they're basically not going to make that decision. And I think so many of us are waiting for that moment in our lives to happen. And we're waiting. And while we're waiting, we're not creating it. And that's kind of what I meant when I'm saying that for many of us, it's not that the dramatic moment hasn't happened, but that we're still waiting for something that is external, that feels external, but really it's going to be our interpretation of that moment,
Right.
not that the moment will force us into that decision.
Well, I think what you're hitting on is like so important because it's sort of like the nuances of all this stuff. But I think the reason why people don't make them up, when I didn't make them, because there were periods when I didn't make them, that was because I didn't think it was mine to make.
Right. That's right.
And that is the primary problem, is that as long as we don't think the decision is ours to make, then we don't make it. The moment you become aware that the decision is yours to make, then you know that you must. Now, what does that mean? You don't know that the decision is yours to make. Most of us in our programming have been programmed to believe in something, a power outside of ourselves.
Right.
So we almost like normally we wait for some outside force to give us a sign, confirmation, all that stuff, bullshit people be saying. But what we're really saying is that I don't think it's my decision to make. Let me wait on God to make it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many people right now listening to this podcast who are waiting on God to make a decision for them.
Right. That's right.
I have that pregnant pause because not to ruffle anybody's religious feathers.
Yeah.
But you keep waiting.
Mm.
You keep waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And your life will never be crafted out to be what you want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key, right?
Mm-hmm.
The key. So I'm, just to do my job here in terms of podcast hosting, I'm going to come full circle and bring what we said we were going to leave people on that cliffhanger, right? And I just want to be clear that this is still the same conversation we've been having, Mahdi, about how to be powerful.
Yes.
Right. This is no different. We named a couple podcasts how to be powerful, but this is also how to be powerful. And the last conversation was how to be powerful, because you cannot be powerful without making that decision, right?
Well, you cannot be powerful without making decisions. And like I was saying, that you have to know that the decision is yours to make. If you don't make it, no one else will make it.
Right. So to use the analogy that that cliffhanger that we left people on, you asked that question around, driving to New Orleans. And it's funny too, like during our break in between podcasts, what I was thinking about, you remember that old, was it Fats Domino? That had a song "Walking to New Orleans."
Walking to New Orleans.
Yeah, that's the one. So that song started running through my head, in between our podcast today, and I was like, I think for most of us, most of our lives have been more about walking to New Orleans than driving to New Orleans.
Right.
The reason why it's taken us so long is because we haven't even made the decision to get in the damn car to drive to New Orleans, but we're actually walking, and pretty much for everybody, that's going to take a really, really, really long time to get there, no matter where you are, right?
Well, the reason why it takes such a very long time is not because it takes a very long time. It takes a very long time because you don't think it's your decision to make.
Right. And you don't think you're driving the car. You're waiting for God to come pick you up, right? Exactly. I mean, to use your second analogy here, you're walking, what is it, 10? Like, is it 10 that you take between Houston and
Yeah,
New
I-10.
Orleans?
Yeah, driving down I-10.
I-10, right?
Right.
So you're walking on I-10 on the shoulder, and every car that goes by, you look and see, is that whatever external force, you call it God, people call
Right.
it whatever they're going to call it,
Mom, dad,
inspiration, mom, dad, you keep,
principal, whatever.
yep, partner, romantic partner,
Make
right?
the decision for me. I know this
Yeah. So
relationship
we're
is
looking
over.
at every car. The cars are whizzing by. We're walking to New Orleans and we're looking at every car whizzing by us, and we're waiting to be picked up, and we never get picked up. That's
Well,
what you're
Martin,
really saying.
that's what it was like. I was in my marriage. I mean, me and Stephanie were married for 10 years, and I was
Yeah.
trying to get her to make the decision for me. And I was like setting traps, like I would create arguments, and the arguments were designed to, I was trying to make her upset enough or make myself upset enough. I was, God damn it, I'm going to make this decision. And she wouldn't, there was none of that going on. So I had to recognize that the decision was mine to make.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? So many of us, that's what we do. We create arguments. We create the same arguments all the time. Let's say you're in a relationship, the relationship ain't working. You've been knowing it ain't working.
Right.
Then going in circles. And so rather than, make a decision to give it all you got someplace else, what you want to do, because you don't want to make the decision yourself, you'll try to anger the other person or accuse the other person of something to force them to make the decision, so that you won't have to take the full weight of whatever happens as a result of the decision, right? So I had to take the full weight, take full responsibility for ending the marriage, and to be able to look at everything that would transpire after. That would have to be on me.
Right.
Right. Now that makes you grow in ways that you can't even begin to imagine when you take full responsibility for your life. And that's what a decision does. A decision puts the whole thing on you.
Right.
And that's the reason why people stand around and like, who's gonna make the decision? You gonna make the decision? I ain't gonna make the decision. You gonna make the decision?
That's right.
You can't live powerful. You can't be powerful without making decisions. You can't be powerful waiting on other people to make decisions for you. That's why certain people get paid the big bucks, because they make decisions and everybody else don't.
Yeah, I think that's that's a really, really good point for sure. And also responsibility. Like, the one time I was in management and nonprofit, what I realized is that what you're really getting paid more money for is to make the decisions and then to be the one that's ultimately responsible, And that's where I think that, we talked in the last podcast about why don't we make the decision? And I mentioned fear. I think there's fear in taking full responsibility for your life. And that fear comes, as you said, from the false messaging of our ego that's been internalized by all these external messages that say, bad things are going to happen to you, if you take full responsibility for your life. And so we've been programmed to be fearful of being fully responsible, for being the one driving our own car to New Orleans, to stopping that walking, get in the car, and actually drive and arrive. There's a lot of fear in that for a lot of us. I know there has been for me. I'm just, reflecting on myself. There's a lot of fear, and continues to be fear in taking full responsibility for my life. And in talking to you, like you say, I can't figure it out intellectually, because intellectually it makes no sense to me.
Right.
But like being able to feel it, feel it on a soul level and a spiritual level, it really makes no sense that bad things would happen when you take full responsibility of your life, yet it still can feel so real.
Well, here's the thing, and it's a good conversation, especially the people who are listening. Fear is a manifestation of you thinking it's not your decision to make.
That's right.
Once you understand that it's your decision to make and no one else can make it for you, then you make it. Before that time, what we're doing is playing with ourselves. Fear is just another toy we have that we play with ourselves with. We are literally capable of observing ourselves and watching ourselves rerun the same sitcom in our head over and over again.
Right.
And I know you've experienced that, where you see yourself saying the same thing to yourself that you said before, and you say the same thing again. You say the same thing again, and you'd ask yourself, "Why do I keep saying this to myself?" Because all of these are, I would say experiences that you've created for yourself that are on rewind and replay, because there's something that you yourself was trying to get you to see But you got to admit that you see yourself using the same language, saying the same stories, making the same excuses, complaining about the same shit. You got to admit it, because if you don't admit it, I mean, the first thing is I admit that I used to say some of this, complain about some of the same shit all the time.
Right.
Right. And the reason why it never changed, during that time is because I really believed that it wasn't my decision to make. This was somebody else's decision. And my life was really been put into somebody else's hands. Maybe I don't know who hands it was, but it had been put into somebody else's hands. And when I realized that it was my life, fuck, wait a minute, wait a minute. You mean to tell me it's my life and I've been wasting time?
Mm-hmm.
It's my life and I've been wasting time? You mean to tell me that whatever it's going to be because I decide for it to be, and I've been wasting time waiting on somebody to come make a decision for me? What the fuck?
Mm.
And I looked at the clock. I was like, shit, I ain't got much time left. Matter of fact, I don't even know how much time I have from the get-go.
That's right.
And then something happens, but the happening starts first with realizing it is your decision to make. Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie, his mentor, said this, that the first step to creating riches and wealth is to take full possession of your mind.
Right.
And when you take full possession of your mind and then direct it to an end of your own choosing, what they're simply saying is time for you to start making decisions, but you cannot and will not make decisions as long as you think they are not for you to make. See, everywhere in your life where you are not making decisions, that means somebody else got your mind and you haven't taken it back yet.
Right.
Your mind working for somebody else.
And I want to be clear for our listeners that, at Soul Focus Group, our interpretation of riches and wealth isn't just through that, capitalist lens of just material, right? I want us to be clear. I want you to say, how you see riches and wealth, because I know sometimes people can get hung up on that and get hung up when they hear the name Carnegie. But what we're saying, and I'll just go ahead and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mahdi, but for us, what we're saying is that there's riches and wealth that isn't definable just by monetary resources, but we're saying like what will come to you in terms of a different kind of prosperity, like a spiritual prosperity. That's how I think about it. I think about this and energy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but in here, let's put this on it too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what the fuck? When you say rich, you have the power to make anything mean what you want it to mean. Just because we say something don't mean you got to go along with it. See, that's what we're talking about right now. The idea that you keep acting like it's somebody else's decision to make. Even the idea that it's somebody else's decision to make about what the meaning of some shit is.
Right.
Because we all have different experiences, different realities. So the idea that you're sitting around waiting for somebody to give you some meaning and then you're going to take that meaning, you're going to run with it, means that you don't want to make a decision. What does it mean to you? Rich. I mean, rich, go look in the dictionary. It got so many damn meanings. So for a person to be stuck in the mind where it's like, oh, he talking about rich, talking about material stuff, and then you go automatically to poor and not having material, that's the result of other people making decisions for you. When you enter the realm of you decided to make decisions for yourself, you can listen to something somebody says and you say, that's interesting. But this is what I believe. This is what I think.
Right.
And you can mix them together. But, in the social justice movement, you have this thing where, we're always quantifying what the hell we say. When the reality is that is a result of people not making decisions for themselves. That's the reason why we keep going in circles, because we're waiting for somebody else to make a decision. So the decision is yours to make.
Right.
Even on the word rich, it's yours to make.
So the answer to Soul Focus Group is that it means whatever you want it to mean. And if you just ascribe negative meanings and then don't allow yourself to receive, the essence of what it means without getting stuck on the verbiage, then it's still another way to not make the decision, to not make decisions.
Well, let me say this. If rich to me is negative, then I need to check what's in my mind. Because I got to live with that. So that means my relationship to Rich is not too good. So that means it's not going to be something I'm going to attract.
Right.
Right. I mean, you may want to call it something else. You may call it something else that you really want to attract, but it don't get hooked on no words,
Right.
because the power still is with you. This is going to exist in your dome. What you believe or think of something exists in your mind. It don't exist in everybody's mind.
Right. And it's just another obstacle we put in our own path.
Yeah, we keep
For our
making
own
problems for
happiness.
ourselves because we're not making decisions.
Right.
Once you start making decisions, you stop making problems for yourself because you know why? Because you got to be the one that has to clean them up.
Yeah.
Until you know that you're the one that has to clean up the problems in your life, you will keep making problems because you haven't made the decision. Once you make the decision and you know that it's your decision to make all the time, then you will cut down on the problems you create because you're like, fuck, I'm the one responsible for this.
Right.
Some of us have never grown up. We still acting like kids. We still want to make somebody, we still want parents. We go make other people parents. People have made me their parent. People have made me their father, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not that.
You said some, I'd say most.
I would say most. And because they want me to make decisions for them. They want me to say something like, you need to do this and you need to do it right now. And then, they come back and say, you ain't my damn daddy when they disagree with it. You're right. I'm not your damn daddy. I'm not. Don't want to be. But what I've been trying to model for people is that your life will not belong to you until you start making decisions for yourself.
Right.
It will belong to this world. The world owns you until you take back possession of your mind, which will be the first thing you're going to see it in is you making decisions for yourself.
Right.
You're no longer on the way to New Orleans. Once you make the decision, you're in New Orleans.
Right. And you asked the question, first of all, again, I mean, I appreciate you saying that because that projection is powerful.
It is.
And I put myself in it at the beginning, to say I've projected on you. And like I said at the very beginning, just that last podcast was helpful to me to even see how much I project on you.
Right.
Even though our relationship has always been about being peers, and yet I've done that with you. I know I have, and I've talked to you about it before too.
Right.
And it's an escape. It's an escape mechanism. It's an escape to think that the answers that we're looking for is going to come from somebody else. So
imagine for a second, Martin. Imagine this for a second. Imagine everybody listening. Imagine everybody you are surrounded around are making decisions for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
How different would that environment be if you're surrounded by people that are making decisions for themselves? They know it's their decision to make, and they have no problem with making it. Well, how different would that be from what it is now in most cases where people are waiting for other people to make decisions for them? What do you feel like eating today? I don't know. What do you like? Where you want to go today? I don't know. Can you think of some place? You go to a restaurant. And you say, well, I want steak. And they say, well, we don't have any steak today. What else you got? What kind of life will we create when we live our life saying those things about everything?
Right. I mean, it's almost unimaginable because we're so used to being surrounded by and being ourselves indecisive. Like we're being surrounded by indecisive people and us being indecisive. So it's almost unimaginable what life would be like. It feels like, one of the themes that I've felt recently is, the more awareness I've gained, on the spiritual side of my journey, when we think about the social justice journey and the spiritual journey, the more I gain, the more I see the person I want to be. And yet I still find myself in old patterns. And when you asked the question at the end of the last podcast of what does it mean to the people that are waiting for you in New Orleans while you're taking forever to get there, I think what it means is that I have the opportunity to be that decisive person instead of waiting for other people to be decisive to get to what you just asked. But the impact that it has on both them and me is that I find myself in situations that I was pretty sure I would never be in again. And the reason why I continue to find myself in those situations is because I still like I keep getting off the exit on the way to New Orleans and going back 20 miles to just make sure that like I didn't leave something behind that I wanted. You know what I'm saying? To really build that metaphor. Like I feel
Right.
like we just keep looking back and saying, "Oh wait, what was going on back there again? Do I need to go back and look at what happened at that, that exit, 2 hours ago? Do I have to go back again and see, did I leave something there? Did I leave my wallet? Did I leave something there?" And I think
Well, let me ask you this question. Let me
the
ask you.
same route over and over again, over and
Right.
over again,
Yeah, let me ask you this question because that's good. It is a good analogy in the way you describe it. So what is causing you to believe it's not your decision to make?
I mean, I think for me that, you know, nobody until right now, until the last whatever, however many years, ever told me it was. I felt like I was told my entire life by everybody that I had to put other people before me, and I to keep that analogy going, I'm probably going back to those other exits to make sure I'm not leaving other people behind. And I'm not comfortable getting all the way to New Orleans by myself. That I feel like other
Mm.
people have to be there before I'm allowed to get there. So a lot of my programming was you always have to put people before you, ahead of you, above you, that is something wrong with you
And
prioritizing your
can
own
we
journey.
can we call that what it is? Can we name that what it really is? What you just got through describing? What is that really?
I mean, I don't think this is the right answer, but fear is the first thing,
No, it's
but
bullshit.
making myself small. I
It's
mean,
bullshit.
it's bullshit.
It's
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
So
Sorry.
bullshit is anything you say, you think, say, or do that takes you off the hook for being responsible for making a decision.
Right,
It's bullshit.
right. And it's
And you will find that about
programmed,
80,
right?
like psychologists say, what 75 to what 90% of our thoughts are bullshit. Us
Right,
taking ourselves off the hook for being responsible for making the decision.
right. And the bullshit was external, but now we keep it going internally, which is what we talked about earlier, that like it's our responsibility to stop bullshitting ourselves.
That's be like one of the first things we got to do in this process. Be able to recognize and acknowledge our own bullshit
That's right.
and realize that, it's like I like the analogy I used to use in the Gatekeepers Academy is imagine you shit on yourself and
Yeah,
nobody know, and
yeah.
you're actually sitting on your warm shit in the chair while you're in the bus station or in the airport, and you want to get up and go to the bathroom, but you're afraid everybody's gonna see the mess you done made. That's what bullshit is. That's
Right.
the spiritual connotation of what it creates in our life. We're walking around full of it. Everybody around us see us with this stain on our backside, walking around with this warm stuff in us. They're watching us. And now, do they want to be around you?
Hmm.
Hell no. Who wants to be around somebody that's full of shit?
It's impactful on them too because they have to smell it.
Yeah, they gotta smell it. And
It's
then
impactful on
if
our
they're
lives.
friends with you or family members, they gotta share the embarrassment.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's going to require them to have another level of compassion for you. Maybe you have a condition that they know about that you have. But when we talking about this, there's no condition for this. It's just bullshit.
Right.
And it's like a person really liking the idea of sitting down watching the same bullshit sitcom every day.
Right.
But it's your decision to make. And nobody will be able to make an excuse that my life is messed up because A, B, C, and D. No, your life is messed up because once you discovered that it was messed up, it was your decision to make that you were going to make it different, and you never made it. I was born behind the 8 ball. A lot of people are born behind the 8 ball, born into deep poverty, deep depression. Okay, once you wake up to this is what your life is, there's a decision to make, but you got to know it's yours to make. And if you don't make it, then your life can never be anything other than what the world has created it to be, because that's what the world created to be based on programming, based on the arrangements that you came into the world on. But one decision could change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Nothing is the same once you make a decision. Nothing.
It does change everything.
It changes everything.
Everything. And then I think for a lot of us, myself included, it's just being consistent in the decision-making process. Because one thing I've learned in these two podcasts, it's not one decision. It's a constant series of decisions.
Constant making a decision.
Yeah, and just to place myself in it real quick, even in just this last week, you talked about having that sort of out-of-body experience while you watch yourself. You either listen to yourself internally or externally. And I've had that experience a couple times just in the last week of observing myself saying things or texting things that I knew weren't positive, and yet I still made the decision to do it. I didn't make the decision to not do it. And that's I'm really sitting with that right now. That we talked about dramatic moments in this podcast, and it's like those were dramatic moments. They weren't dramatic like driving down the highway and essentially seeing your own death. And it's still really dramatic because literally I had the option to change the course of an hour, a day, a week in my life by making a different decision in that moment. And yet I still made the decision that was relevant 5 exits ago and isn't relevant for me right now. And that's sitting with me very powerfully right now.
Yeah, that's good because, like I said, it's your decision to make. It always is your decision. And, decision is like the steering wheel in the car, and if you don't make them, then you're not directing, you're not steering your own life. When you wait for somebody else to make decisions for you, they are carving out your life and they don't even know that they're doing it because that's not their responsibility. It's not something that they really want to do. Even parents, that exhausts parents to have to always make decisions for their children. And they really shouldn't. You get to a point where you have to stop it. As children, you make decisions, but what you ought to do as a parent is you train them on how to make decisions for themselves. Not how, but that the decision is theirs to make. I mean, that is so important that parents put that on their kids at a young age, on different levels. It is your decision to make, so that they will understand what it means to be an adult.
Right.
Because many of us, like for myself, for example, I was a child for a very long time.
Right.
Because I wasn't making decisions.
Right.
I was pretending to be an adult and I wasn't making decisions. And there's no way for you to actually feel what it feels like to be in charge of your life without making decisions.
Right. That's right.
So sometimes that what we experience, that struggle we experience, is coming to grips with the fact that we are still a child and we could become an adult tomorrow by simply accepting responsibility for the decision is yours. Because see, I'm going to say it again. I said it in the last podcast, is that your decisions delete programs in your subconscious mind. If you want to put some subconscious programs that are producing the wrong result for you, there's certain decisions you got to make that will literally delete the programs from your memory. That's what decisions do. When used correctly, they delete certain programs from your memory. You won't even remember that you were an asshole at one point. You won't even remember that you used to complain all the damn time and make excuses all the time. You won't even remember.
Right.
You could go back and look at some of your journals and diaries and you read and you're like, wow, damn, I used to experience this. Yeah, you used to, but it would be gone from your memory.
Yeah, I just did all that in my move. I just went back and looked at all my old journals and diaries. I was like, God damn. It is almost like reading from somebody else,
It is, but once you make the decision, you do become somebody else.
And and we forget. I know I'm guilty of this. We forget all the time how far we actually have come.
And you got there by making decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just, because I love to take an analogy as far as I can possibly take it, Mahdi. So so we may not be all the way to New Orleans, but we're in Louisiana. We're deep in Louisiana. And like we see signs for New Orleans. And we forget sometimes how far we've come from where we started. I know I do. And I think part of being in that consistent decision-making process, making decisions that, are positive, is that we have to give ourselves credit for the ones we've already made. I know I do this all the time as I devalue I devalue my own progress. I devalue my own decisions that I've made. And so I'm feeling like that's a huge part of it too, is we have to really acknowledge how far we've come and not focus on that bit left we have to do.
Yeah, I would say it's true. We have to celebrate the decisions that we've made. Right. But in that analogy, if the decision is to get to New Orleans, there's no such thing as stopping in Louisiana.
No, oh yeah, I agree with that.
There
So
is
I'm just saying,
there is
you realizing that it just might be a few more exits, so you can't stop.
no
You gotta keep going, even if you feel different.
no. Anything down that road that's not New Orleans is you settling for not living your life, not going full speed. If the decision looming is to get to New Orleans and it's your decision to make, once you make it, you're in New Orleans.
Right. I got you.
Yeah. See, and I want to make sure that's clear because there is really no in between. See, the only thing that's holding up the decision is you thinking it's somebody else to make, which means that you are bullshitting because you're blaming somebody else. You're blaming somebody else on you. You're blaming somebody else on your life. Like you're making someone else the heavy, whether it be the world, whether it be racism, whether it be whatever. You're making something else responsible for the decision that you got to make. And no one can get around making it. We all have to make the decision for ourselves. I don't care. Yes, it could be true. They have systemic barriers that are blocking people, but you still got decisions to make.
That's right.
They are, we live in a patriarchal society that's male dominated. And so women have been oppressed for a long time and they still got decisions to make.
Right.
We're a heterosexual society where, gay and lesbian people and, non-binary sexual oriented people struggle with, being accepted and all, but they still got decisions to make.
That's right.
We are all responsible for growing ourselves, and the most efficient and effective tool we have in our arsenal is a decision. And if you don't use them, you don't grow. You go in circles in your life and people stop waiting on you to arrive in New Orleans. And they pack their shit up and they move to the next station. And you don't even know where the next station is because they waited. So we waited as long as we could. Now our next stop is the moon. Right. Now, if you can't make a decision to get to New Orleans, how the fuck are you gonna make a decision to get to the moon?
Right.
And then the sun, and then another planet. How you gonna do that? How you gonna do that if you're struggling to make a decision to get to New Orleans?
That's right. And that's how our decisions affect our ability to be in a movement together. Right.
That's why bands break up. The band was together. Like, man, what happened? Somebody made a decision.
Yeah. That's right.
Beyonce made a decision to go solo.
Yeah.
I mean, she had, it's a nice little group, but she made a decision. She saw herself in the moon and stars.
Mm-hmm.
So she made a decision. She took the decision on herself and decided, bam, and there she go. She was there the whole time. She was there when she was a little baby. She was Beyonce. She didn't become Beyonce. She was already Beyonce.
Right.
So what are you that you haven't made a decision to be that's waiting on you up the road? Because we all up the road waiting on ourselves. And the only way to catch up with ourselves is to make a decision. Ragivah, Mahdi, been there. He waiting on me. Like, how long are you gonna take to get up here, bro? Oh, I'm waiting for somebody to make the decision for me. I'm a victim. Man, they don't like me. Man, they always trying to work against me. What the fuck? That's bullshit. Still your decision to make. You can't get around it. Still your decision. It was still my decision to make.
That's right. And you asked the question earlier, what would it look like for all of us to be surrounded by people that had made, that were making decisions? And that's what I'm just really thinking about right now.
It would be like being around people who are in their power.
And we're not going to get the external change that we ask for, that we're saying that we want, unless we're all in our power. And that's what I'm hearing you saying. So
listen, it is bullshit. And I keep saying that. And if anybody's offended, I don't apologize, because I'm using the word in a way to really, hopefully cause you to feel some discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the reality of us being on the way to New Orleans all this time. We got to stop playing with each other. And I hope that everybody that's awake listening to this very, very clearly, stop letting people play with you. You get to New Orleans or not.
Mm.
We got to set time limits and say, okay, look, this is how long we're gonna wait for you. It's a 5-hour trip. We're gonna be leaving in the morning. You got the morning to get in here. If you don't get here in the morning, we gone. And you won't be able to find no traces of where we're going next. Because we're on a journey. And guess what? I think those of us who are making decisions, we want to get to the biggest and baddest version of ourselves that we've ever imagined in our tunnel of imagination before we came into this world, that we put out there in the universe. We already there. We're catching up with ourselves. It's your decision to make. Catch up with your greatest self. Stop playing it small. Stop bullshitting with your life. Give it all you got. Give it all you got.
And with that, I thank you, Ragivah Mahdi.
Thank you too, Moses Martin.
Don't forget the teddy bear part. Teddy bear Moses.
Yeah, teddy bear Moses Martin.
Special kind of Moses. And, we thank everybody for listening and just really just take a minute, like before you just move on to the next thing, whether it's the next podcast or whether it's the next thing in your life, just take a moment to really sit with all of that. What does that really look like for you? Why haven't you made the decision to meet yourself in New Orleans? Just really think about that and think about what that would look like for you once you actually get there.
Right.
To be in a movement, whatever that looks like for you, in a world where everybody's making the same decision. So just before you move on, just take a minute and really, really feel that,
Yeah. And I like that too. Ask yourself, why am I not making decisions for myself?
Right.
And you will see that it's because you think somebody else is responsible for making them, or that you don't want to be responsible for making them.
That's right.
And the whole time while you don't want to be responsible for making them, you're making yourself a slave to this world. You're making yourself a slave to the condition that you say that you don't want to be in. And everybody around you is watching you bullshit, and they're saying to themselves, man, I am not going to deal with this shit no more. I can't, because I'm going to catch up with me.
Yeah, it's powerful. So with that, we say goodbye to everybody. We thank you for listening. We ask you to go to our website like we always do, soulfocusgroup.com. Subscribe to our podcasts on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so that you can hear, the podcast that we release every week. We want to be on this journey with you. We're all at different points. I love what Mahdi said today about is just how far you down the path you've gone, but we're all on that same path. Doesn't make you better just because you've been on it a little bit longer, or doesn't make you worse if you've been on it a little less time. So just revel in the fact that we're all on this journey together. So know that we love you. We love that you're on this journey with us. We ask you to stay well and stay safe in this world. And most of all, we ask you to stay soul focused.
Yeah.
If you wish to support and represent the Soul Focus Group, check out our apparel store at our website, www.soulfocusgroup.com/shop.